Managing an independent insurance agency in today's economy and soft market forces agents to set priorities. We've been talking with Juan Andrade, Executive Vice President for Sales and Distribution at the Hartford's Business Management Group. In our other segments, we discussed priority number 1, customer retention. Next, we took on priority number 2, maintaining a disciplined and systematic approach to sales. Of course, there is more to successful management in hard times than managing and growing revenues. It's also a time to take a hard look at costs. Operational efficiency is priority number 3. Andrade says that while agents right now are wise to take a holistic approach to management, the expense picture has to be brought into clear focus.
But looking at it from an expense perspective, I think this is really an opportunity to look at your margins, particularly with a top line that may be declining or that may be flat. And this is a time where you may want to defer certain types of activities. You talked a little bit about travel earlier. That may be one. You may look at maybe self-funding your own investments that you're making within your agency as opposed to adding incremental costs to the agency at this point in time. And it's always important to realize that 55 to 60% of all the costs within any given agency are going to be personnel costs. So the key here is making sure that your people, your employees are being as productive as they can, particularly given the market situation right now. And so that's back to the focus on sales, which is really making sure that they're taking every single minute that they can to be as sales-oriented as possible. So it's a great time to be looking at your processes within the agency, streamlining things that you do, and frankly, being very introspective and asking yourself questions about, should we continue to do these type of things? And making your own business plan and your decisions based on that.
With 60% of expenses related to personnel in most agencies, salary freezes and layoffs cannot be taken off the table. Some agencies may have no choice, but it's not the first place to look. First, go back to priorities 1 and 2 and make sure customer retention and sales are being taken seriously. Then, there are some other areas to look at, perhaps renegotiating leases or supplier contracts.
Yeah, and that's actually another huge area of opportunity, right? Because I would think that second after personnel costs, it really are going to be those fixed costs. So, it's a great time to be negotiating with your vendors at this point in time. I know certainly as a company we do that, leasing particularly your space, taking advantage of the housing market and just the commercial real estate market and which way it's gone. There's got to be some better deals out there. Asking yourself questions, do you really need to be in a Class A space or is it okay to be in a Class B space? And I think those are decisions the principal will have to make based on the image he wants to represent for his particular agency. But vendors such as, whether it's office supplies, staples, etc. This is a great time to be looking at your costs with a great level of detail. And if you haven't done that, you ought to start right now and making sure that you have a lot of transparency as to where your money is going.
So agency owners and managers must be looking for places to control expenses, from travel to rent and paper clips and everything in between. But what if it does come down to breaking relationships, either laying off employees or moving from a longtime vendor to someone new? Nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes it just has to be done.
Absolutely. And, my approach has always been open and honest. And I think, frankly, that's the best way to be with anyone who has to manage people in these times. And I think the most important thing is making sure people are well grounded in the context that the business is operating in, right? Making sure people understand the current economic situation, making sure that people understand that really the business margins that we're trying to operate with, that they understand what the company, the business, the agencies focus on doing at this particular time to make sure that we keep a viable enterprise within that agency. But if it comes to making tough decisions, I think the open and honest philosophy is always the best, which is really letting people understand why the action has to take place. So if it's because the agency is not meeting particular profit margins that need to be met, that the top line is not growing as fast as it needs to be met, I think it's important to be very open and honest with people at that time. But part of that is also sharing with folks what your strategy is, right? And how you're planning to manage all of this. So, laying it out. So have a business plan for 2009 that hopefully you're working on developing at this point that says, if I can reach these goals from a top line perspective, if I can reach these revenue goals from a commission standpoint, this is where I need to keep my expenses at.
We've covered 3 top priorities for managing an agency in troubled economic times. Priority number 1, customer retention. Priority number 2, a disciplined sales strategy, and priority number 3, operational efficiency. Juan Andrade speaks with agents across the country all year long, and in many ways, the priorities he offers today are the same ones he would advise if the economy were strong. Andrade believes more agents are listening and following through on sound agency management principles. And that's just one of the many reasons independent agents will survive in these troubled times, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think the independent agency channel will continue to be as vibrant as ever. And frankly, these are the times when people need the most help, right? And this is where you can really show people what the value of an independent agent really is. Businesses are going to be struggling, large and small. And this is where, just great sound advice on how to protect themselves will be critical. Consumers, individual consumers are going through the same thing. So yeah, I'm a big believer in the independent agency system, and we will continue to thrive, no question about that.